Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of Keto Chat. Today, hey, I'm your host, Carol Freeman. I am here today with a very special guest. I know I say that every time, but hey, can I be equally excited every time I get to interview somebody? Today I'm here with Marianne, and oh my gosh, she was a flash from the past. She was somebody that sent me a message on, I think on Instagram or Facebook, and I didn't even recognize who she was because her transformation was so amazing. She was a former client of mine. I was like, who is this person? And when I saw the before photos, I was like, oh my goodness. So welcome, Marianne.
Thank you.
Very excited to have you here. So we're going to just talk about your keto journey before and with me and what you're up to.
Well, I just lost your sound.
Oh,
there you are.
Oh, I'm still here. Well, Marianne, let's start out. How do you introduce yourself? Who are you? Who are you in this world?
Well, I'm Marianne Harlow. I live in Spokane, Washington, and I am a retired 62-year-old that is enjoying playing in retirement. Was in the travel business for most of my career. And so it's in my blood, but now I'm traveling more on the ground with a little travel trailer and just going out and seeing the countryside.
Wonderful. Excellent. So let's talk about your keto journey. Well, how did you first hear about it? What before you ever met me, like what happened for you? Like maybe even go back even further before keto, like your weight journey. How about that?
Well, my weight journey probably began with my mom. She always fought with her weight, and so I watched that my entire life. And so I joined the Yoyo uppy downy plan, tried hospital sponsor program, Jenny Craig, soup to nuts. If it was out there, I eventually tried it and eventually ended up in a worse spot than where I started. Pretty typical story. And then the fall of 2018, I'd gone to Hawaii with a friend, and after a helicopter tour, they took a picture of us. And when I saw the picture, I about died. It was like, oh my God, when did that happen? How did that happen? And when I got home, I was chatting with a girlfriend who'd been trying keto. And so she loaned me a book and I read it. And it's like, well, this sounds pretty reasonable and foods that I like and something that I could live with without feeling deprived. So I tried it and did okay, but then I got on the internet and was reading about all different ketos, and there's so much misinformation or cross information. It's like, what in the heck are you supposed to believe? And so I started searching out keto help more locally, and that's when I ran across you and your program and said, let's just dive in. So that was the first part of January of 2019.
All right. And what was it that made you decide to get help rather than just trying to figure it out all on your own?
Well, all my life I've been trying to figure it out on my own, and hadn't been very successful. And I think deep inside me, I knew it was more of a head game for me, that I needed to figure out why this is a recurring thing. I've been, pretty successful in my life, but I couldn't get a handle on this weight issue.
Now a lot of people I work with are in the same boat. They've been really successful and then they beat themselves up about, why can't I figure this part out? What kind of insights do you have now about how much of that was your fault versus just the wrong approach or the wrong support? Or
Well, I think, a little bit of everything. You know, I grew up in a household where it was, you had to clean your plate, regardless if you were hungry or not. So a long time ago, I had lost the ability to recognize if I was really hungry or if I was really full or if it was, you know, I was bored. What the heck? It was, I think, rarely that I was eating because my body actually needed fuel.
So you got all the wires crossed. You couldn't trust your own appetite or hunger, and you learned to ignore that, which most people
Exactly.
have. And I mean, that's what I see with most every other diet plan out there, is that they're still trying to teach you, you need all these external things to tell you what to do and what to eat and when to eat and how much to eat.
Exactly. Or like the Jenny Craig thing, you know, eating prepackaged food, you didn't have to worry about the quantities or anything, but it didn't teach me anything. I didn't know myself any better to do better on my own.
Yeah, because you're either then you're learning to eat prepackaged food or what?
Yeah.
There's no other option with that program. Yeah.
And it also, you were deprived because it was, I mean, the quantities were little, but it also wasn't very interesting. It just wasn't satisfying physically or mentally.
Mm-hmm. So you feel like now you're getting better in touch with knowing when you're actually hungry, when you're full, when you need more food.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sometimes, you know, the old habits creep in and you look at the clock and it's like 6 o'clock. Wait a minute. Am I hungry? No, I'm not hungry. Huh. That's cool. Okay. Moving on. Instead of just doing it by rote of the learned patterns over our lifetime.
That's so great. And you probably heard me like a broken record say how much I'm really passionate about helping my clients really learn to trust their body again. So getting back to a state that you can actually trust your body, your appetite, your hunger, your thirst.
Yeah, I went through your emotional eating program. I don't remember the exact title, but that was extraordinarily helpful to me, as it gave me the tools to figure out what my reality was. Where before, you know, you kind of play games with yourself or whatever you're doing, but that really kind of made you dig deep and say, okay, why am I really doing this? And what is it? How is it serving me? And how can I change it and pay attention to what my body really needs food wise, versus it's not a sport. You don't just do it for enjoyment. So it's really changed my attitude too, from, you know, living to eat to now I eat to live. It's, if there's nothing around, say even in the afternoon, if I'm hungry or something. Yesterday I had a meeting and I wasn't hungry before the meeting, and it's like, oh, I'll just worry about it when I get back. And when I got home, I still wasn't hungry. It's like, well, probably weren't that hungry reality anyway. It's like, have a glass of salt water and call it good.
You probably had a little flash, a twinge in your brain that was like, well, if you don't eat now, you're not going to get to eat in the meeting and you might get hungry, which is something I really identify with before. But that was just an old pattern that
Yeah.
You've learned enough, your brain has learned enough that like, it's going to be okay. I'm not going to get hungry in the middle of the meeting. And if I do, I'm not going to crash and burn.
Well, and being keto adapted, you travel around with fuel with you all the time. So, you know, if you miss a meal, it just means your body's going to go, oh, well, let's just take a little from here and a little from there, and which works out great for everybody.
Oh, it's wonderful. So let's talk about, so you've done a couple of my programs. What's been your overall success Where did you start, and what are all the things that you noticed, at least because you worked with me for a couple of months, and then a few months after that, and then I didn't hear anything from you for maybe 6 or 8 months or so, and then you came back having a grand transformation. So let's kind of do it in phases. So in the first few months, what did you notice changes and improvements then?
Well, one of the things I really liked about the program is you provided sample menus, but more importantly, it was like how to construct your own. So, because I'm kind of a weird picky eater, and so often it's like I don't care for avocados. So you gave me the formula to say, okay, there's avocado on this, but I don't have to eat that. I can eat this instead. And, they work out about similar, with the fat and protein and carbs and such. So that was very helpful in giving me the tools to adapt it to my own personal likes. When I came back from Hawaii, I'm guessing at my weight because it was too frightening to stand on the scale. And so I'm guessing it's probably 60 to 65 pounds I'm down from when I started. And having the coaching support and the calls, the coaching calls I found really inspiring, because other people would have questions that either I thought about and forgotten, or that I hadn't really thought about, but was able to apply to my own world and my own eating patterns or whatever. So those calls were really important. And then like the emotional eating course just really got to the root. So the first one set me up to start taking my weight off and the inches off. And then the second one was like, okay, how and why, and how can you approach this to make it a lifelong thing? This isn't a diet. It's not a temporary thing. It's a change of the way I live. And I periodically fall off the cliff, but I haven't found it terribly difficult to get back on track. I think because of the tools, especially from the emotional eating program, but just knowing the basics of, okay, you need to get back on track, just reel it back in. I know what to eliminate, where the carb creep comes from, and I just need to get back to weighing and measuring and paying attention. And so it's been a pretty, well, it's going to say a straight line journey, but it's there's bumps along the road, but it's still sustainable in the long term, I think.
That's what I want to ask next then, is that if you can imagine in the past any other diet plan that you'd followed, first of all, have you ever been a year out of following any diet plan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then how did you feel a year after you started? Did you feel like, wow, this is really easy and sustainable, I can do this forever? Or were you feeling like, ugh?
Rarely that it was sustainable. Probably the one that came closest was Atkins, which isn't terribly different than keto. But I think I succumbed to the carb pushers in my world. And I think I have better tools now to deal with those people that think you can't eat like that. It's like, well, first of all, it's none of your business how I eat. And second of all, you can have all my share of that. I don't need it. It makes me feel bad. I don't like the feeling after I've eaten stuff that is pretty much out of my world now, the sugar and the grains and that type of thing. So I think I have just a better set of tools now to go forward with than I did before.
So it sounds like you've figured out the formula for your success. Then is really keto, low carbish eating, right? Is compared to what you've done before is feels like the most sustainable way of eating. And then the emotional eating tools that I taught you through that program, as well as at least initially the coaching support that you got answered a lot of questions for you. So it sounds like usually there's a three-legged stool that helps people support their success. It sounds like you really got that figured out.
Absolutely. And I think it's also, if I start to slip a little bit, I have the tools to get back on track, and I know exactly what I need to do. And it's not difficult to use those tools. I just go put my scale back in the middle of my stove where it reminds me every time I eat, let's weigh this, let's measure it, let's keep track of it. And I don't think in the past a year out, my cupboards are still really clean of carby stuff. Probably the one carby thing in my cupboards would be like canned chopped tomatoes, because periodically make chili or something like that, but it becomes a small part instead of the focus of whatever I'm eating. But the ladies I camp with loved it when I did this, because I cleaned my cupboards and I took them on camping trips and said, okay, the store's open, come get it.
Oh, that's funny. All right. So what other, besides the weight loss, what else have you noticed that's changed in your life?
Well, being 62 and 60 some pounds heavier, everything was achy. It was an effort. It was a pain. Putting your socks on was a pain to get past your belly. Last fall, I went on a big RV trip, and we probably averaged hiking, 5-6 miles a day, and it was all above 5,000 and 6,000 feet in elevation. And it wasn't till I got home that I really thought about that and thought, holy smokes, if I'd been lugging 60 extra pounds, I would never have done a quarter of that. So it certainly makes life a lot more fun. My dog loves it because we go for walks way more often than we used to. It's just a lot easier dealing with aches and pains or lack thereof. And also, I used to have, just remember this, I used to have acid reflux, 3 or 4 times a week or more. And it was awful. It would wake me up in the night and stuff. And I can't remember the last time I had acid reflux. And it probably had to do with one of those days that I went a little sideways. And it's like, oh, that crap just doesn't agree with me, which is also a good reminder to not eat that kind of stuff. But it's amazing how I don't have the acid reflux at all anymore.
Yes, it's very, very common that acid reflux, despite what the doctors say about like, well, you should have less spicy food and put your head to your bed up and you should do all these other things and take acid blockers. And it's like, oh, actually, if you just reduce the carbs, it all goes away.
Yeah, it was weird too. I always had a stomach that gurgled and made noise and stuff, and that doesn't happen any longer either.
Wonderful. So less aches and pains. You're feeling lifestyle freedom, being able to be free to be active as you like and explore and hike, and no more acid reflux and anything. I imagine it sounds like more energy too, based on what you're saying about your being able to walk your dog all the time. And
yeah. And it's been fun to closet shop. Yesterday I had a meeting, and being retired, I rarely get dressed up. And so it's like, okay, there must be something in the back of the closet here. It's like, oh, I forgot all about this suit. We'll just put that on. It's like, ooh, looking good.
Nice, nice. Oh, anything else that you know that noticed that is dramatically improved in your life over the last year?
Well, it's interesting. I have friends from various parts of my life that have contacted me. Well, I sent you the pictures of the before and then a couple that were almost exactly a year apart. And I accidentally posted that on my Facebook page. I was trying to do a collage, and I had, I think, 4 different people from different parts of my life contact me privately. It's like, oh my God, what have you done? So it's like, well, hey, it's pretty simple, straightforward way to go.
Nice. So you're getting, that usually happens. People notice a big difference. They're like, what's your secret? Tell me.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, especially after being pretty disgusted with the state that you've got allowed yourself to get in, to actually feel like you look like you'd like to, instead of trying to hide it under big baggy clothes and all that stuff.
Yeah, I had a similar experience where I saw a photo of myself with family, and it was like, that's not me. That I don't feel like that. Like, because it's such a gradual increase of the weight, you don't see the change in the mirror in yourself every day, and then when the photo is really the wake up call, where you
Yeah.
kind of that like realization. But even then, it's hard to accept.
Yes, I would see my mom in the mirror often. It's
Okay.
like, wait, no, I'm not ready for that.
Oh wow.
But it's also, weird stuff like when I buy dog food and I'm, hauling a 20-pound bag of dog food. It's like, okay, so this is just from the store to the car. And you were hauling, 3 times that much every single day just to walk from the front door to the mailbox. Holy smokes, no wonder you feel so much better.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The dog food one always gets me too, because years ago out of high school, I worked in grocery stores, and for whatever reason, that always sticks in my head as like a really heavy thing, because we had like the 20 and 40-pound bags of dog food in the front of the grocery store. And to pick one of those up was always like, that's a lot of weight. So that's funny, because in my mind, I always think about that too, is like, oh, 3 of those? Like, can you imagine duct taping 3 of those on your body and then walking around all day long?
Exactly. Lumpy and bumpy and like,
the same thing.
holy smokes.
Yeah. Oh wow. Here's something I've never asked you. Have you ever thought about the difference in food savings, like how much you were spending a year ago on food versus now?
I thought about it a bit, but not a whole lot. I've always said I can cut out a lot of other things besides food. So I've always bought relatively good quality food, but I probably waste a lot less than I used to. Hang out, around the outside edge of the grocery store. I've also, people go, how you go to Costco and you're a single person? That's crazy. Like, but Costco has like the best steaks and, all that kind of thing, or the big blocks of cheese. And I bought myself a vacuum sealer. And so I come home from Costco and I get my scale out and I just cut it into portions and vacuum seal it, and then I just write the weight on the outside of the bag. And when it's all portioned, it comes out of the freezer. It thaws really fast, so it's all ready to go, which also helps making stupid decisions of, in my past, it was like, oh, I don't know what to eat, and so I'd run to the Wendy's down the road.
Ah.
Um, and salads were not what I was buying.
So you are, okay, so you've come back to help support everyone else on keto with me now. So you're now one of our peer support coaches and training to be a keto lifestyle coach. So inspiring others. You're amazing at all kinds of little tips and tricks. So you just threw one out, which has me thinking of this with the vacuum sealer. This is one I haven't heard you say before, so I love that. That's so great. Just taking, buying in bulk, which saves money, and then just taking a little bit of time to portion stuff out into individual sizes. The vacuum sealer, I don't have one of those, but now all of a sudden I want one because, it ends up saving you so much. But
you can get them not very expensive on Amazon. I think I only paid $25-30 for mine. I'd probably, if I was to do it again, I'd maybe upgrade a little bit, just because I think they probably function better. But the inexpensive ones work just fine. They seal it up. And the other thing I've discovered is that is really great when it's time to go camping. I literally just open my freezer, because I usually just barbecue when I'm camping, and I have everything all portioned out. So it's like I'm gone 5 days. I just, pick out 5 meals. I have canned tuna, canned chicken, that kind of stuff that just stays in the camper. So I can be camping in a moment's notice.
Oh my gosh, we need to do a separate episode on keto camping tips.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Let's book that. Yeah. So we'll, you know what would be super fun, Marianne, is that if I drove out and we did it right with your camp trailer. So.
Well, that could happen.
And then we should just go camping too. So.
Yeah, maybe we have camping stuff already planned. I'll send you my schedule, see if any of them come in. Have a spare bed. You can just move on in.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that would be great. Oh my gosh. So so we're going to do a sole separate keto camping tips, tricks episode. That's going to be so great. I can already envision, I want to go to Utah actually, but anyways.
That was last fall.
I know, I missed that. So, what other tips do you have? I mean, and again, you're so great. Like every coaching call you're on, you've got another tip you pull out. And I'm like, that's so great. Like what other let's just do like your top 5, keto food tips for success, like make it fast and easy and simple. I mean, go ahead with the other ones.
Got me on the spot now.
I know. You're just top of the mind. They don't have to be your best. They can just be whatever pops in your head. So.
Well, portioning things out.
Okay.
Is because then you make one mess. So I'll often, I have favorite recipes that are really easy, but they still take time and mess. So I'll take chicken breasts and pound them so they're relatively flat, but more importantly, they're even, so they cook evenly and you don't dry them out. But I'll cook them all and then throw them in the freezer, throw them in the refrigerator, so it's fast and easy to grab and go. On one of the calls I was on recently, you were talking about a beef jerky that you really enjoyed when you were in Hawaii. So I got online and I found some sugar-free beef jerky, and it came in a larger container, and I just had little snack Ziploc bags. So I stood there on my scale and I just weighed out 1 ounce portions in the zip bags. And so, when I want something or I'm craving something salty or whatever, I can just grab one of those and go. Or like if I'm driving somewhere and I think, if I get hungry along the way, rather than taking nuts, which is something that I'm not very trustworthy with, The beef jerky is very satisfying. The protein fills me up and gets me where I'm going, and something that's easily eaten on the road. So I like things like that. Costco has the little packs of salami and provolone, and that was on my big camping trip where we were in the car a lot. That was often lunch as we're driving down the road. And my dog loves those too. Let's see, other tips.
Portioning out food. I'm putting the vacuum sealer on there. I love that one. It sounds like too, like, you know, stocking your fridge and pantry with quick and easy foods is another one. So you mentioned like the canned tuna, the canned chicken, and then just the fact that you've got these portioned out foods already in your freezer. Like those are all things that just make it quick and easy to.
Yeah, and that, I think that's part of the eating to live instead of living to eat, because it's all tasty, but I'm not revolving around food all day long. I think that's been really helpful. It's like, you know, you get in, prepare it, and get out.
Yeah. So keep it simple, quick and simple.
Yeah. Some this kind of comes and goes, but sometimes I have like pint canning jars, and I got the plastic lids versus regular canning lids. And when I buy greens or salads or whatever, you know, lettuce, I'll chop it up and then I'll just put it in the jars, and they seem to stay fresher, where being single, sometimes stuff like that will spoil before I get it all eaten.
So tell me more about what you're talking. So you're talking about like the canning jars?
Yeah, just the little pint canning jars.
And then what you mean by plastic lid? What's that?
Well, you can get them on Amazon. I'm an Amazon queen.
Okay.
They're just screw top lids that fit on pint. You can buy pint ones or ones for quart jars. But pint size for me is a serving. You know, you can put a cup of lettuce in there, a couple cherry tomatoes and onions or cucumbers or whatever. So if I'm doing like cucumbers or anything that has a watery base, I'll put that in the bottom of the jar.
Okay.
And then the onions, and then the lettuce is on the top. So when you have everything in, you have about a cup of lettuce, maybe a little bit more. And then all you have to do is put your dressing in and shake it up, and you're ready to go. Or pour it into a bowl, throw some protein on top of it, and you're ready to go. And you're not standing in your kitchen chopping lettuce up.
Okay, so you're doing, there was a big trend for a while with the salad in the jar or meal in a jar thing. So it sounds like you're doing something like that, and doing that with veggies. So you're prepping those, but putting them in a jar is really good versus, and I've taught classes on this, so I know exactly what you're doing now. So if you put the things that are really watery in the bottom, and because the jars are, you know, vertical, they help separate the water from like the lettuce that's going to wilt really quickly if it's sitting in water. And so
wilt or turn brown or whatever.
So usually we make salad in a big bowl, everything's touching everything else. But if you put it in the jar, you can put cucumbers or tomatoes or other watery things in the bottom, and then things that, you know, have a little more hearty, you know, in the middle, like actually whole cherry tomatoes could go there. And then when you put the lettuce on the top of it, it's not touching the water, and it will stay fresher for a week or more that way.
But I think,
go ahead.
I think actually too, just being in a jar, you have less air involved, which keeps it from turning brown. And I started it just because I'm inherently lazy. You know, chopping up all that stuff every single day, I got bored with it. So it's like, if I chop it up all at once, if I'm really paying attention, I'll chop up the lettuce and toss it in just a little bit of lemon juice, and then that really helps it stay. It'll stay in the fridge for like a week and a half.
Nice. Well, and the other trick, you can put your dressing on the bottom if it's in something else that's you know, for example, you could put the dressing in the bottom with like the chicken or something like that. As long as it's not touching the lettuce, you can actually make the whole thing a pre-ready salad and then just shake it up like you said right before you're going to eat it too. But
Yeah.
you can also just keep the salad dressing totally separate and put it on later. So very cool. Another one I didn't even know you got out of your sleeve, but that's great. I used to teach classes on how to make those, and I totally forgot about that, but that's great. Excellent. All right, Marianne's top 5 tips for making keto easy and quick and easy. I love it. All right. We got 5.
Oh,
I wrote them down, yeah. Pre-portioning your food. Using the vacuum sealer. Stock your fridge pantry with quick and easy keto foods. Keeping it quick and simple in meal prep. And each meal. And then 5 was doing the little veggie salads in a jar. So I know you've got tons more, but we'll stick with that for now. All right.
I'm gonna have to think about it, write things down as I do them.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, oh my gosh, so much value. You have shared so much and so inspiring. Like your transformation is very inspiring to others, and you're so full of information and tips. And it sounds like you're finally feel like your whole life is a reflection of who you really are, and just living life to the fullest.
When I'm excited to do the peer coaching, that in my professional world, I did a lot of coaching. And so it's fun to find a new outlet that I really believe in and help other people. I get excited about that.
Oh, that's excellent. So happy to have you. You're such an awesome addition to our team and provide so much value to everything you touch. So I'm really honored to have you with us. So.
Thanks. I'm enjoying being back in the fold.
Yay. So anything else that you were hoping I would ask about, or anything else that you want to share before we wrap this up?
Not that I can think of.
All right.
Oh, one little thing I thought about this morning is my dog really likes keto too, because I'm kind of a sloppy cook. So when things fall on the floor, they're always good things that she likes. Well, with the exception of the lettuce.
Oh, yeah. Our pets can do a world of good health too by cutting out the carbs. Most prepared dog and cat food, unfortunately, is just filled with cheap carbohydrates, and they just as us, they don't do as well with that, and they do better with just real foods.
Yeah.
Well, Marianne, congratulations on all your success and getting your three legs of your success stool figured out, and I'm so glad that you reached back out to me, and we get to hang out some more. So
I'm glad too. So it's a fun adventure, and I appreciate all of the support and ideas and ways to get my brain to cooperate with going forward in a healthy direction.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share with everyone, and thank you for being here. If you've all enjoyed this interview, give us a thumbs up. If you want to hear more of this, hit the bell. That's what's going to get you notifications for upcoming episodes. And thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.